Assalamu alaikum everybody, my name is Yasmin, and in this video we'll discuss some of the string methods we have covered in Unit 3, and we'll see how are we supposed to use them in coding. So let's get started. Please know it's a very quick and descriptive video, so I'll be covering it as quickly as possible. So yeah, let's get started. This is being recorded now. Okay, so I'll be looking at all of these methods for strings, which is length, char at to uppercase and lowercase, substring, and index of. Now, things we're supposed to remember in all of this is that index always starts from 0 and length starts at 1. So when you're counting length, it will take us start the count from 1, 2, and so on. But when you're counting index, it always starts at 0. So in this case, char at index of will start at 0. Now let's see how will we look at it from a perspective of coding or how to implement it in coding. So for this, first you need to open your compiler, if you have any online, using online one, or if you're using NetBeans. So the first thing you need to do is you have to do import, because you'll be taking input from the user for this purpose. And then create your scanner object. Okay, now this word you see name here is basically the input the user has taken. So this is basically the string we have. So I'm going to create a string called name. String name will take input from the user. Next line. Okay, and then I'm going to use all of these string methods we have in here. So the user will be taking inputs for, okay, before that, you have to do it, print out, to enter the name. So let's run it and see what we get here. Enter your full name. That's it, okay. And I'm just going to do a print out here. So enter. And then I'm going to do out. Okay. That is basic here. Now we'll see how to use all of those string methods we have, or string methods we have here. Okay, we'll start from length. So the length, so name. I'm going to do print out statements for all of this, so it's going to be easier for us to quickly explore it. Just going to hit. Okay, the first one is length, which starts at 1. So this is what you do. You do name, which is the string I have created, dot length. Okay, this will give us the length in numbers. So I'm just going to write here a comment, which is it returns number. Okay, so I can even do is what I can do is I can even save it in a variable مثلا int length to name dot set, and I can print it eventually later on in a print statement. So both ways work fine. Here as a comment. So you can do it this way, or you can do it the way I've commented it up here. Instead of using name dot len, you just use the variable. So both ways work fine. So let's see. Your full name, Yasmin M, is 8. So if you count in here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can also count the spaces we have, and then length starts at 1, not 0. Remember this first thing, okay? Now we go back to this part, which is char at. So char at, okay, so in here you're supposed to enter a number and return for real character. And then starts at 0, not 1. But remember this specifically. Okay, so let's say if I want to know what's the char at the first, what's the first character? But if I want to confirm if the person has written the first character, let's say it's a condition to write it as 2, starting from 2. Whatever might be the case, this is how you can figure it out. So system.println, see, character at 1, index 1. So name dot char at a capital 1. So this should return for me A if I'm gonna go with this Yasmin name. Char at 1 is A. I'm gonna put a space in here. Okay, now we can use char at in multiple ways. We can use char at and put a number. We can even put a variable in here if we're looking for a variable. So it can be done with combination of different methods as well. So for example, let's say if I figure out index of a certain letter, and then I can use char as in combination and as such. So okay, one more thing. Let's for example assume I want to know what's the last digit or what's the last letter the person has written. If I'm looking for a specific letter, for example, in that case, what I can do is I can use length and char at and combine them both and see what's the last letter. How will we do it? So I'm gonna do it. So length will give me the length of the string which a user has entered, and it starts at 0. Now to figure out the last digit the user has entered, this is what we can do. We'll do in here system out println last letter. So we're gonna do name dot char at length. Sorry, name dot length -1. This will give me the last letter because the length will give me, for example, here the length is 8. If I'm gonna do -1, it'll take me to the 7th letter, which is the index at 7, which will give me the last letter. So let's have a look. Last letter is M. Okay, so we can combine both of them. If you want to use, let's say, variable to do it separately, you can do this. And last letter equal to name dot length -1. So this will return the number we have. And then I can use this variable in char at method. Okay, so this is everything the brackets. Can use last letter in here instead of using the whole method again inside the brackets. So let's run it again. I'm going to use a different name in here. Let's say Ali Hassan. So length is 10, but as index starts at 0, so it will always return for me the last letter as -1. If you have to do -1, so it will start or stay at the last letter, which is N. Char at 1 is L, is in here, and the last letter is N. Okay, let's continue. To uppercase and to lowercase, you can of course put them as a separate string and then use them, or you can just print them right away. In system out print line, it will convert your string into upper or lowercase, whatever the user has entered. One thing to remember that whenever you're writing methods, let me zoom in here. Okay, so whenever you're writing methods, the first letter of the method is always small, and then each word is capital, so to uppercase. And then we repeat this to lowercase. Okay, so all capital, all small. There has to be space in here. Okay, let's continue. Now we have substring. Substring is basically it returns a new string that is a subset of a name starting at index 2 and extending to the end of the string name. So basically it's used to split the string you have entered starting from a specific index. So let's say I want to split the name starting from index 2. So we'll start it from 2. If I write 2 as substring 2, it will give start from here 2 until the end of the name. Okay, so let's have a look how we use it. So let's say I want to split it starting from 3, for example. So I'm going to do name dot substring. Please note it's all small letter and slide. I think S is capital, but it's all small. So I'm going to write here 3. Let's put a space in here. substring 3 starts at space actually. So yeah, I'm gonna write a bigger word in here so it will do it more properly. Ahmed Isa. So substring starting at 3 substring, which is in here 3. So it starts from 0 in here. Let me zoom in. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3. E is 3. So starts at 3 until the end of the string I have. So this is what it looks like in the output, ed and space visa. Okay, now how can we use this? You can use it to split or to figure out, let's say, one of the lab exercises, the last name, which we have done earlier. So you can find the first char at space. Okay, so we want the character, sorry, index of space. You can find index of space and then use that in your substring. So we did one of the lab exercises. Let's do it again. So index, let's index. Okay, not index, okay. So let's do it this way. Okay, yes, int index equal to name dot. I want index of space. So I'm going to put a space in here. Whatever number is being returned, I'm going to put that in my substring. So let's do it in here. I'm going to split this in here. So substring of space will give me the index I'm going to put in here. And then we test it out. Okay, let's write a bigger name. So I wrote Mira Jassim in here. Let's enter. Okay, so name, land, character, jar at uppercase right now subspace. So it's going to find the space, and then its space is in there, by the way, and then start from there and until the end of the string. Why? Because I have done substring in here, index of substring. Yeah. So what we are seeing in here basically is that I want index of space. So find space for me. It will return me the number or the location of space. Whereas I'm going to put that in my substring. So whatever the number is in here, it will start from there. And if I want to do jump one letter, I'm going to do +1 in here. So it will skip the space. You will notice in next, if I run the same name again, the space has been removed. See, okay. We're supposed to put +1 in here inside it, not outside the method. My bad. Yes, okay, so the space has been removed, okay? So let me explain it again very quickly. Now we were looking for the last name only. Let's say I'm looking for the last name in here. Split last name from the full name. Now what's the thing between the first name and last name is space. So I want to know where the space is located exactly. How to do that? Using index of space. So find the space for me. We're assuming there's just one space in this name. We find the position. And we're going to use that position or the last index and I'm going to put it in substring. Why substring? Because substring basically uses the number we have given, start the name or split the name from that point until the end of the name. So we're starting at the space. We jump one number, so the letter after that, which is the start of your last name, until the end of your string, which is the end of the name. But this is how we get the last name. This is example of one of the lab exercises we have done already in lab 3. Okay, let's continue. Then we have index of A. So I want to figure out where is a certain letter located. Okay, so this will return for me index. So if you're inputting, just remember this one thing, yeah? Whenever you input a letter, you will get a number. And if you're inputting a number, you will get a letter. So in here, char at, we're inputting a number. We're going to get a character and vice versa. So I want the index of a certain number, so I'm going to get an index and index 2. Let's say I'm looking for a letter, مثلا. E. I'm gonna go with the same name. Now, if there is more than one letter next to each other, let's stop at the first one. Char at Microsoft. Okay, it gives this both. Okay, that's great. Okay, so it's giving me the both of the letters. Okay, now it's actually one. There's a space in here, my bad. Yeah, it'll give me the first letter. Okay, so I hope this makes sense. You can combine basically all of these examples in more than one ways. So for example, you can combine length and char at and index of. These are the most commonly used methods you're gonna find in the labs and exercises. Okay, I hope this makes sense. Another exercise I can give you and you can work out, let's think about something together. Okay, so for example, okay, let's keep it for the next activity. And then I'll look at Delimiter, how to use Delimiter and what are Delimiter. I'm gonna just read out what we have in the slides, so it's gonna make sense. Okay. So sometimes it's from the slides, by the way. Using a scanner to read separated strings. Sometimes you might need to break down a long string entered by user into a separated string. Example, that is, the word in a sentence. We can do this by creating another scanner object from the input string called and calling the use delimiter methods. We have two scanner objects in here. Uh, the next method of the scanner returns the each string separated by the delimiter, which can be a space or a character. In this example, if a user enters a name which is made up of three names, that is Ali, Muhammad, Abdullah, the output will show each name separately. Okay, so use delimiter is you're going to split the name you have entered using the delimiter that you have mentioned in the code. Okay, so for example, in this case, I have a space. It can be a comma, it can be a dash. You're going to split a long split into different parts, and you can split them into string, integer, and so on. So let's have a look. How will we do it? I'm gonna do this example first, and I'm gonna give you another example. I have the code prepared somewhere. Okay, so this is where I have prepared the code. I'm just gonna walk you through the steps we need to do this. Okay, the first thing you need for this case is you need to do an import because you'll be taking a user input. Now you need two scanner objects. So remember this very carefully. One, the usual scanner object we have, tool scanner. So the scanner in and so on. Then we enter the name. You ask user to enter the name. And then in this scanner, we'll use this scanner object based on the input the user has entered. This is my user's usual scanner object, usual input we have for the name. This is the most usual or the common case or piece of code we have seen, right? Okay. Now for the next scanner, we have to use delimiter in here. You make sure you remember this spelling for everybody. I'm not going to give you hints in the exam. Okay, now how do we use it? In this case, you're going to do the scanner name, new scanner. Inside this bracket, you're going to use what? The input we had for the string. You're going to use it in here. So you're saying, I want to use delimiter for this user input, which I have done earlier in the code. Okay, what's the delimiter here? The delimiter is space. Okay, this is what you mean by this code in here. First scanner is for the input, and the second scanner is for splitting the name into different parts using this delimiter, which is a space in this case. Okay, how are we going to do it this way? For example, method, if I'm going to write in this case, first name, last name, family name, we can do that. So you can use multiple strings, or you can do it right away using system out print line. So first, okay, you're gonna do name dot next. So this will automatically start from the first part until it reaches the delimiter or the space you have in here. And we have the day. And then we have the last. Now, whenever you're doing the delimiter exercise, you have to make sure that the inputs match the delimiter you have entered. So if you're writing first, middle, and last, you have to make sure that you have it in that exactly in that format. So you can't have it 4 and you have 3 input or other way around. Okay, so let's run it and see. Let's say Ali, Ahmed, Hassan. So first name is Ali. It's gonna stop in here, which is the first space, then continue and stop in here, and then last until the string stops or ends in here. Okay, this is using space. Now let's assume we have comma in here. Okay, and you want to split them in different ways. Let's say the format goes like this. So the user will enter the ID, for example, like this. This is the name, comma name. So I want to split the name and the ID into separate variables. For example, this is the case. So what I can do is this. I'm going to create a space system out print line. You can do it separately. Okay, let's go start by creating a variable first. So I can do ID to name dot next int. Then I can do string username. Since I already have a scanner object name dot next. See? And then I'm going to print them. Okay, so it has to be in the format I mentioned, so 2024, whatever your ID is, comma, and then the name. Okay, ID and name. Okay, now if I write the name, it'll omit the comma, but then you have written the name. Okay, first gonna split the ID and then the name in here. So yeah, this is how it works. If you're using a delimiter, I'm just gonna test it with next instead of next line. Let's see what output we get. Yeah, okay. So a better approach would be using next instead of next line, so we avoid the comma in here. Okay, so in case we are using delimiter comma, so it's gonna look at the first part, stop at comma, split them, and save each into different variables. But this is how it works. So you can use any kind of delimiter. You can use dash and as many objects you have. So you have to create that much of variables. So in this case, I have 2, ID and name. If I write any further, it's gonna show me an error or so. Okay, let's test again. So if you have, okay, so since I don't have anything else, but if I write another line of code and there's nothing, it will show an error. So I hope this makes sense. I'm gonna go walk you through the steps very quickly. The first you need to do is import util package. Then you need 2 scanner objects. The first is usual scanner you have. Then you need one string object, string for input. For the second scanner, you will use the string you created in the brackets and then specify the delimiter you are using. So it can be anything, comma, space, dot, dash, and so on. And then you can split them all using name.nextInt if the first is int, or name.next, use the first or the second part is string, and so on. Okay, I hope this makes sense. Let me see if there's anything else. Okay, this is all for string objects. I hope this was useful. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to create another video for math objects.